Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a great week. My inspiration for this week's video came to me in two ways. First, I created a painting a couple of weeks ago that I posted here on YouTube, and while I was working on this painting, I was reminded of some wonderful little creatures that I really love, turtles. And it's also inspired by the fact that life has been asking me to slow things down. For those of you who've been watching my channel for a while now, you probably are very aware of the fact that I paint very intuitively, which means that I let my creative decisions be guided by the moment. So one decision leads into the next decision. And I not only function this way from a creative standpoint, but I also am very intuitive and function very intuitively in my life. When I'm faced with challenges in my life, I look for answers within, but I also, because I realize that everything is connected, that everything in life is connected and that we're all connected, I look for answers within, but I also look for answers around me. Because I feel very connected not only to my inner guidance but to life as a whole, I often, when I'm faced with a challenge of any kind, will ask for guidance if I'm not too sure where to turn to. And if the problem is really challenging, I ask my angels and the universe and the world around me for very clear guidance on what needs to happen for me next. Over the last few weeks, I've been faced with some health concerns that I haven't really been able to find solutions to. And so I basically asked my inner divinity, my inner guidance, my intuition, the world around me, I guess, what it is that I can do to help myself at this time. And this is when one specific sign started to show up more and more in my life, and that is the symbol of the turtle. Some people might say that it's a coincidence that turtles, images of turtles, actual turtles, people talking about turtles started to show up in my life. But for me, that is not a coincidence. That is life speaking to me. And I think when I asked for a clear answer, I couldn't have gotten a clearer answer than that. Because to me, the turtle or tortoises are the ultimate symbol for slowing down and being more present. And honestly, I don't think there could be a better time for me to slow down and to be more present than when I'm faced with health concerns. Of course, mindfulness is always the ideal, if you will. The more present we are in the current moment, the less we feel stress, the less we feel anxiety. But unfortunately, societal pressures make it such that it's not always all that easy for us to be completely mindful. So for this week's project, I've decided to paint my little symbol of slowing down and bringing more mindfulness and presence into my life by focusing on the thing that matters the most at this moment, which is my health. And I'm going to paint a turtle. The turtle I'm going to be working on painting is going to be more abstract and more whimsical, and also very symbolic of the concept of time. My turtle's shell will have 13 large scales and 28 little scallops on the perimeter of the shell. The 13 large scales will be representative of the 13 moons we have in a year. And the smaller scallops around the perimeter of the turtle shell will represent each of the 28 days in the moon cycle. This, of course, is not a concept that I'm inventing. First Nations, indigenous cultures all over the world have connected with this wisdom for many more moons than our current calendar system has existed. Before man invented watches and clocks, we relied on the sun, the moon, and the stars themselves as our giant clock. And really, life all around us is showing us its own concept of time. Flowers start to bloom in the spring, leaves fall off the trees in the fall, snow starts to fall in winter. The symbols and the signs are always all around us. But the only way we can really pay attention to those symbols and signs is if we slow down enough to actually be able to notice them. Today's painting is created with great gratitude. Gratitude to life and to my dreams and to my inner wisdom for asking me to slow things down so I can take better care of myself. When I'm working on a painting such as this one, I often find it very helpful for me to draw an outline of the thing I want to create using some pencil lines. And I usually try to keep the pencil lines pretty light. My intention is to put them down first, and then to do what I'm doing right now, which is using a marker to sort of trace over them. And once I'm done tracing over them lightly with my marker, I'll come in with my eraser and erase the pencil lines. When it comes to drawing, I often hear people tell me that they can't draw and that it's too hard and they prefer not to because they're either embarrassed by what they're going to create. And I'm here to tell you that everyone can draw. At least that's my true belief. That's my belief. And that one of the issues with this idea is mostly that we have come to believe that we can't draw, but we don't actually give ourselves the space to be able to do it. So here I want to encourage you to draw. What I'm doing here right now is actually quite simple. I started by creating an oval, and then I'm just going around my turtle's shell and I'm creating these little scallops that again are very simple. I'm also going to invite you to release the concept of trying to make things quote unquote perfect. Perfection is a concept that I have been working on releasing for many, many years. And I find that I feel better and I feel more creative freedom when I release the idea that things need to be a certain way. So when I'm drawing, if lines don't come out perfectly straight, I embrace them. They're more natural and beautiful this way. And I also remind myself that every little step of my process is exactly that, a step. It's not the final result. And so when I release the pressure of having the final result in mind and that everything needs to look exactly the way I want it to look in the end right now, then there's a better chance of me achieving something that I'm going to enjoy in the end, because I'm removing that pressure for it to be anything that it needs to be right now. And right now, all my painting needs to be is a painting in progress. It's not the final result. The final result will come when I'm ready to say my painting is complete. Until that moment comes, the painting is a work in progress. So anything is possible. Anything and everything is possible. The paint I'm using here to go around my turtle is a very diluted form of the turquoise color I applied initially when I was creating my background. I created this very diluted mix of my paint because I want to keep it transparent so that the paints and colors that I added in my background will also show through in this layer. But adding this paint will give a little bit more dimension to my turtle and my painting, and it'll help my turtle stand out a little bit more. Now, in reality, when a turtle is swimming, it's not floating above the water. I'm aware of that. But remember what I said in the beginning. This is a whimsical painting. It's an abstract painting, a painting that is meant to be used symbolically. And I want this to be not only symbolic of the concept of time and abstract, but I don't want to add extra pressure on myself at this point. I've already got enough that I'm dealing with when I'm dealing with health challenges. The last thing I need is to be hard on myself and, to try and force things to be a thing that I don't want them to be, or to add pressure on myself to make this thing more perfect than nature. Nothing is more perfect than nature. Nature is exactly how it should be, and we are exactly as we should be. The key concept here is to learn to develop acceptance. Oh, and as I'm talking about this and I'm looking at my little turtle floating on top of what is going to become my water, I actually love this even more. I love floating in water. Is there anything more relaxing than floating in water? Especially if you love water. I mean, if you are afraid of water or if you can't swim, maybe that might be not so relaxing. But for me, I'm a self-professed little mermaid. So floating in water is like the ultimate in peace and relaxation. So the fact that my little turtle here is going to be floating on top of water, I love it. When I was working on creating this little painting that I'm showing you right now on the top right of the screen, I was looking at the shapes that I was creating in my painting, and they were reminding me of turtles for some reason. Probably because my body was asking me to slow down, and at that point, that's the imagery that came to mind, the image of a turtle. And so I thought, I'm going to paint a turtle. In order to create the scales on my turtle's back, I'm using some of the concepts that I use when I create my own style of neurographic art. And I'm basically looking at any area where there's a sharp area of lines intersecting, and I'm making those shapes rounder. So once I'm done drawing in my guidelines, I'm going to come in with my black brush pen and I'm going to start painting in those areas, and you'll see that those rounded shapes are going to start to take form. Now we're really starting to see why it wasn't really all that important for me to worry about creating perfect lines when I was drawing in my turtle's scales, because I'm coming in now with my brush pen and I'm coloring over those lines, and they're not even going to be visible by the time I'm done. And my turtle's shell is starting to come to life. I'm using some stippling here to create a little bit more dimension in my painting, and this stippling will also help the turtle to contrast against the background. Now those black lines all around the turtle already help it to do that, but I also want to use the stippling to sort of create the illusion of the turtle having some claws, because my turtle is not realistic, but why not give it claws to make it look even more interesting. And I didn't want to draw really harsh lines, so using a little bit of stippling helps me create the claws in a more subtle way, and I think it fits well with the style of this painting. Two of my favorite iridescent colors are certainly this magic green and, of course, star gold. These two colors I use very frequently, and since I discovered star gold, it's made it in almost all of my paintings. Not all, but almost. And the magic green has become a fast favorite with me as well. I love using them independent of each other, but they also look really cool when used in combination. So I'm happy to be able to use them both in this painting. I'm going to use a little bit more star gold here in the center of my turtle's scales, and then I'm going to use a little bit more of that magic green in the background of my painting in just a little bit. I'm loving my turtle, but now I'm feeling like my background needs a little bit more something to make it more interesting. So I've decided that I'm going to use the same black marker that I used in the beginning to sort of outline my turtle. And I'm going to create these little swirls that to me will represent the movement of water. Once I'm done adding my swirls, I'll come in with my magic green again and I'll add a little bit more dimension to those swirls by making them iridescent, and I think this will blend well with my turtle's shell. It's now time to remove the tape from my paper and have a closer look at my little whimsical turtle. This whole process was probably longer than most of the processes I show you on my YouTube channel. It took me a few hours, if not more, to create this painting. But it came to me at a time where I really needed to slow things down and bring myself into the present moment where I can just focus on being and doing something I really enjoy. There's something very therapeutic not only about the concept of slowing things down, but also the idea of bringing joy into our everyday moments. And for me, I always seem to feel my best when I'm doing this, painting. It's part of my purpose in this life to create, and I also feel that it's my purpose in this life to connect with you all. And I'm very thankful I get to do so. I hope this video has been a chance for you to slow things down a little bit in your own life. Thank you so much for making the time to join me on this journey. I hope you have a wonderful week and happy creating!